So congratulations, you've made it through the first phase of your songwriting career. You've gotten comfortable exploring on the piano, or if you're not entirely comfortable, at least you've built some courage to be able to do this authentically. At some point, you are going to have to pin down some of the ideas that you've collected to develop further. So this means going through your experiments and starting to choose sequences that you might want to develop. Okay, so what constitutes a sequence can be very open to interpretation. Okay, it could be a couple of notes, it could be a chord progression. It's just anything that you can repeat later, something that's repeatable or something that you can remember. Okay. And I have tips in how to do that on the next slide, but I just want to talk a bit about the mindset aspect of this, because it's the mindset that is so important to get right before you can do any of the other stuff. Okay. This step can be very challenging for people because things start to get permanent. They start to get real, right? And taking a stand on some of the ideas that you find interesting can be a whole new level of difficult for some people, right? Because it requires a whole new level of self-acceptance. I just want to remind you that the thing that makes selecting ideas nerve-wracking is usually a sign that you've been focusing on the external reception of your ideas. If you find it difficult to pin down ideas, 9 times out of 10, I bet the reason is because you wonder if other people would like that idea too, right? But we can coach ourselves through this by remembering, 1, that our musical gift is for us, and 2, if we show up authentically, our ideal audience, should we choose to share our music, will resonate with it as well, because they have already been filtered in through our authenticity, right? This musical gift, this journey is really for you, so try to enjoy it with a spirit of lightness, okay? All right, so now I'd like to give you some ideas. I'd like to outline some ways that you can tune in to what might be resonating with you, okay? Okay, so ways to tell if you like an idea. 1, if you're playing something and you feel kind of curious about to see where it could go, where it might lead to next, that feeling of curiosity. Another feeling is the feeling that you could expand something, that you have more to say. If you just had a little bit more time to work on it, you could develop it. That's a feeling to pay attention to. 3, if a follow-up idea just magically comes to you. If you're playing one of your experiments and a follow-up melody or chord progression just kind of comes to you, that's showing you that's a live one. So that might be one that you want to carry on. A feeling of urgency that just says, like, I have to try this one. Even if you have no idea where you might go with it, you just feel like the sense of urgency. That's a good feeling to hold on to. And last, and kind of overlooked, is if you don't have any ideas, you don't think you have any ideas, but you keep coming back and repeating a sequence over and over again. Like something that you've come up with, like a lick or something like that, and like it doesn't feel inspired. It doesn't feel like it has like the sparkle that you would imagine inspiration or inspired music to have, but you keep coming back to it. You're repeating a sequence because it's doing something for you. So rather than judging it and evaluating it, pin that one, take that one, be like, okay, this is something I'm going to hold on to for later. Okay. When we're choosing ideas, I just want to go back to what I was saying before about there being a lot of advice on YouTube about like how to choose the right ideas. This is the choosing stage, right? And I'm really talking about choosing based on how you feel about your music. But if you're like me and you spend a lot of time on YouTube looking at a lot of people's opinions, then you probably have come across YouTube educators who encourage you to use their chord progressions or their melodies. Or like, I should choose something that has a bit more of a hook or something like that. We're not going for that here, okay? Stay away from that. You are not going to develop your own musical voice if you're just collecting somebody else's ideas, okay? If you are using other people's ideas based on the fear that you can't create your own, you are just trying to replicate their success, and you're not going to develop your own musical voice if you're just trying to replicate somebody else's success. Now, if collecting chord progressions sounds fun to you, then by all means, have fun. You can collect chord progressions the way that visual artists collect watercolor paints, You can collect many, many colors. You just don't have to feel obligated to use them. Just use the ones that spark joy, right? Take tips from other people on YouTube if you want, but try to move forward in a spirit of lightness and the feeling of enough, that my ideas are enough as I choose them. Okay. Oh, amazing. I'm really glad this is resonating with you. Thank you so much. Okay. And then if you want ideas for how you can actually pin down your ideas, then I've got a couple of ideas here. So the first stage in pinning something down is like giving them some permanence, right? So you have to find a way to collect these ideas so that you can work with them, because we're going to refine them next, right? So the refining stage needs something to work with. So how are you going to pin down your ideas to work with them? Couple of ideas. So notation. I've talked about having a notation book in the past. This is my little notation book. This is where I collect my ideas. This is where I pin down some basic ideas at my piano. That does require you to know how to write down notes. If that's not your thing, no problem. You can also try recording. So with piano specifically, you have two ways of recording your ideas. MIDI is when you MIDI is a way of plugging your keyboard into your keyboard so that the program or the software, excuse me, does the notation for you in the software. But another way of doing it is just doing an audio recording. You can also plug in so it just captures your audio. So it doesn't show you. So the difference between these two is that when you do it through MIDI, it shows you the notes, but you don't get to use any of the sounds, the cool sound effects that are on your keyboard. It will be whatever piano sound is available on your computer. Okay, so, and those tend to sound a little bit more robotic. The benefit of going through an audio, like an audio recording or doing a line in, is that if you had any sound effects or a particular sound at your keyboard that you really liked, the audio recording will record it exactly the way that you played it at your piano. It just won't show it to you in terms of the notation. You'll just have the sound of it. So whichever you prefer. If you would like some guidance on the difference between MIDI and line in audio, let me know, and I can look into this as a future webinar. But just so you, for now, I'll just say like these are two of the options that you have. If you don't know how to write notes, if you don't know how to record, maybe just jotting down chord progressions. Like if you know your basic chords on the piano, that can be another way of doing that. You can also draft out some of your lyrics if you feel that you have words coming along with some of these experimentations that you've been doing. I think the important thing here is to try different combinations of things. Something that I find really interesting about creativity is that like no one seems to have a problem understanding why a visual artist or a graphic designer might want to prototype different versions of a poster before they land on the right one, right? They'll do rough sketches, they'll sketch up some ideas, maybe they'll put the title up here, maybe now they'll try it down here. They move things around, right? And they're just prototyping. We call this like iterative design, right? no one seems to have a problem understanding why a graphic designer might do that. Yet it seems to be so far from people's ideas that a musician might approach composition that same way. The experiments that you were doing were really just like rough sketches. And right now, when you're pinning down your ideas, you are just kind of working with these rough sketches. But you can now start to combine them in different ways just to see what's possible, just to see where these things might go. And I encourage you to retain a spirit of lightness by telling yourself, no one's judging me, I'm just seeing what's possible. And you're not committing to anything yet, you're just trying different things, all right? You may find that one way of doing things strikes a chord. My own personal way of doing things is I try to come up with at least 3 different combinations of my different ideas, just to be able to tell myself that I at least tried, right? And I'm often surprised how the first idea that I thought was really great ended up being overshadowed by a later idea that I loved even more. So I encourage you, try different things and use pencil. Don't lock yourself in too early.